Hello, so we are going to start with LSD CLAT 2026 DI and Quant practice. So, what we are going to do today, we are going to discuss a set of CLAT uh, 2022, that is a DI set, and in which we are going to talk about. Okay, so before we are going to start that set, let's understand the uh, the importance of QT section in LST. In QT section, you are going to have approximately 10% of the paper, or I would say 12 questions approximately. So, what is the actual meaning of those 12 questions? So, if you are going to do 7 questions right, or 8 questions right, or 10 questions right, so basically, I know the weightage of QT is less, but still, we are going to talk about the overall score. So the person who can solve 10 questions in QT uh, and reasonably in other sections. So basically that the difference uh, of 10 questions, the people, there are a lot of people who don't attempt, who are brilliant students, but they don't attempt QT a lot, right? They attempt 2 questions or 3 questions, and if you are, instead of 2 or 3, you are attempting 7 or 8 questions in QT. So the difference of those 6 questions is going to make a difference in your admission. So basically QT is something that should be used, that should be taken as advantage. Hello, Priyanshi, how are you? So let's um, start with some basic concept of percentage that we are going to use today. So when we are talking about percentage of concept of percentage, so how percentage is used, how we can calculate the percentage easily, and how can we calculate the percentages very fast. Priyanshi, I'm good, what about you? So let's talk about 10%, right? So if I have a number, let's say uh, 350, and question is saying what is 10% of it. So 10% is, I can directly say, it is going to be 1/10 of 350, right? It is 1/10 of 350. So 1/10 is what? 35. Now question says we are talking about 5% of it. So 10% is 35, 5% is half of 10%. So what is half of 35? That is going to be 17.5. So I can calculate these percentages very quickly. Now question says that I want to calculate 20%. What is 20%? 20% is double of 10%. So double of 35. That's going to be 70. So that's how we can calculate 20%. Right. Now, if the question suddenly asks, what is the value of 21% of 350? So what should be the approach? So approach shouldn't be, you are not going to do 350 into 21 divided by 100 and solve it. No, that is a way to solve, but this is a lengthy approach, right? So what I'm going to do, I am going to write it as 10% plus 10% plus 1%. So what is 10%? 10% is 35. 10% of 350 is 35. What is 10%? That is 35. What is 1%? 1% is 1/10 of 35. That is 3.5. So 21% comes out to be 73.5. So I am writing everything here, so it is going to take a lot of time. But when you are doing it in the exam, or when you are practicing it, you are actually going to be very fast with this. For example, now question says I want to calculate 39%, some random percentage of 350. So what I'm going to do? So 39%, I'm going to write 4 into 10%. That is 40% minus 1%. So 10% of 350 is 35. So 4 into 35 is what? That is going to be 140, right? Minus 1%. 1% of 35 is 1% of 350 is 3.5 minus 3.5. So this value comes out to be 136.5. So if I want to calculate any percentage in of 350 or any in short any other number, I have taken an example of 350, but if you want to calculate of any other number, so break it into smaller in the multiples of 10 and the multiples of 1. So instead of that, if someone says I want to calculate 42% of 350, so what is 42%? 42% is going to be 4 into 10%, right? Plus 2 into 1%. So 4 into 10% means 10% is 35. 35 into 4, 140. 1% is 3.5. So 3.5 into 2 is 7. So this value comes out to be 147. So my answer of this question is going to be 147. That's how we are going to approach these kind of questions. Whenever we get the percentage change, percentage increase, percentage decrease, or we want to calculate some percentage. So this is the approach we are going to take. Okay. So now let's move on to the question and see what question is talking about. So this is a question of CLAT 2022. Now, there is too much theory that is written here. We are going to solve the question slowly. First thing that we should do is to read everything very slowly, understand, and then do it. So, as per survey conducted in a college, of the total students enrolled, that is 3,000 in 2020 and 2021. Okay, 1,700 were girls and 1,300 were boys. Okay, so that's what that is given to us. Okay, the data regarding students opting for various streams, non-medical, medical, commerce, arts, and fine arts uh, showed that 25% of the students opted non-medical, and the percentage of girls in the medical was 30%. Okay, so what it is saying that a total of 1,700 girls were there and 1,300 boys were there. Okay, so we have important value that girls that are 1,700, boys that were 1,300, the data regarding. So basically it says that 25% of the enrolled students. So what are the enrolled students? That is 3,000. So 25% of 3,000. Right. So if I want to calculate 25% of 3,000 quickly, what I'm going to think? So I can say that 25%, I already know that it is going to be 1/4. Right. So what is 1/4 of 350? And that's how we are going to calculate. Right. Opted for non-medical, and the percentage of girls in non-medical was 30% of the total number of girls. What are the total number of girls? That is 1,700. Right. So 30%, so 30%, so 10% is 170. So 30% is going to be 170 into 3, or I can say 510. So I'm going to solve accordingly. Now let's see. So this is the data that is written, and question is telling us that total number of students that are given to us are 3,000. Okay. So let me change the ink color. So total number of students enrolled are 3,000. Out of 3,000, how many girls are there? 1,700. How many boys are there? That is 1,300. Now, what is the information that is given? That 25% of the enrolled students opted for non-medical. So non-medical is 25%. So 25% means 1/4 of 3,000. So what is 1/4? So 1/4 of 3,000 is going to be 750. So that's what we are getting over here. Okay. And the percentage of girls in non-medical was 30% of total girls. So 30% of 1,700. So that is going to be 510. So from here we can calculate the number of boys in non-medical. So 510 are girls, 750 is total. So it comes out to be 240. Okay. Now let's move to the next one. 15% of the total students opted for medical. Okay. So 15%. So how I'm going to calculate 15%? So 10% is 300. So 5% is going to be half of 300, that is 150. So total number of students in medical is going to be 450, right? Or you can directly calculate that 15% is 15 into 30 is going to be 450. That's going to be easier, right? And the percentage of girls who opted for medical is 18%. Okay, now how I'm going to calculate 18% easily? That is going to be 20% minus 2%. So what is 10% of 1700? That is going to be 10% is 170. So 20% is 340 and 2% is going to be 34. So it comes out to be 304 girls opted for medical. So remaining 146 are going to be boys. So this information I have used. Okay, what does it says? 25% of total students opted for arts. So 25% we have already calculated it, that is 750, right? But the percentage of girls who opted for arts was 15%. Okay, so if we see that 30% of girls we have already calculated, so 15% of the girls are going to be half of those girls, so that is going to be 205. So what is the total number of boys we are going to have? That is going to be 545. So this is what we have figured out so far. So this is used. Now 16% of total students opted for commerce. Okay. So 16% opted for commerce. So basically, how to calculate 16%? So basically, I can say that 15% is 450 and 1% is 30. So basically, 16% is going to be 480 and they opted for commerce. And the percentage of girls who opted for commerce was 17%. Okay, so 15% of the girls are 205. So 17% of the girls is going to be 15% plus 2%. Now what is 15%? That is 205. 2% is what? 34. So 205 plus 34 is going to be 239. So this value comes out to be 239. So this value comes out to be 200 and something and 241. So this is what we are going to get. Now, the last value need not to be given because I can calculate it by using sum. That is another approach, but still let's use. So 19% of the total students opted for fine arts. So 19%. So 19% is what? 20% minus 1%. So 20% is going to be 600, 1% is going to be 30. So total students in fine arts are going to be 570. Okay, and the percentage of girls who opted for fine arts was 20% of total number of girls. So that is going to be 10% is 170. So 20% is going to be 340. So it is going to be 230. So it is, I think there is some mistake. So it is 30%. Then it was what? 18% of the total number of girls. Oh, so I think in medical, so basically I think I made a mistake. 15% of total students medical. Okay, so 18% of the total girls were in medical. Okay, so 17% we have calculated, that is 239. So 18% is going to be plus 17 and that is going to be 256. So this value shouldn't be 304. This value should be 18% of 1700, that is going to be 250. The percentage of girls who opted for medical was 18%. So it is, did I make a mistake in calculation? 15% is going to be Oh, it's a mistake. It is 255. Sorry. Half of 510 is going to be, I made a mistake in calculating this. So this is 255. And from here, the calculation itself is changed. So let me reiterate couple of values. So the commerce value I'm going to change, the medical value I'm going to change, rest is fine. So the total is also fine. Now let me go through it once more. Just let me calculate the values. Just there is a little calculation error. That is half of 510 should be 255 instead of 205. Okay. So basically what we are going to do, that is 20% minus 2%. So 20% is going to be how much? 20% is going to be 340, and 340 minus 34 is going to be 304. That I think we calculated right. And this is going to be 146. Okay, now the next one, the commerce one, what did it say? The total student opted for commerce, 16% this and 17%. So basically it is 255 and 17% is going to be 15% plus 2%. So 15% is what? 255. And 2% is going to be 34. So it is going to be 982. So 289. This is the value I'm going to get. But still, I think some data is problematic. And why it is so? Because it is 30%, then 18%. So this is 48%, 48%, then 15%. Then it is going to be 48 plus 15 is going to be uh, 63. 63 plus 17 is going to be 80. 80 plus 20 is 100%. So number of girls is fine. So 20% of this is this. 17% of total girls is going to be 289. Okay, that's also fair. 18% is going to be uh, 300 and it should be 306 and it should be 144. Okay, so my bad. So this is going to be 1, then it is going to be 9, then it is going to be 1. So that's how we are going to approach the set. Yes, Priyanshi, I made a mistake over there in the calculation. So basically this is the value that we are going to get, and this matches all the values. Now let's move on to the next one, the question. So what is the ratio among the boys and girls for non-medical? Thank you, Priyanshi, for the correction. So what is the ratio of boys and girls in non-medical? That is going to be 510 is to 240. So boys and girls is going to be 240 is to 510. So 240 is to 510. So 0, 0 cancel out. 3 is 8. Then it is going to be 17. So answer of this question is going to be option C. Okay. Now, let's move on to the next one. What does it say? Which of the following course has been opted by minimum number of boys? So just look at the data. So it is going to be commerce. Directly it is visible that, sorry, it's not commerce, it's medical. So least number of boys we can see in medical, that is 144 boys. The answer will not be, Priyanshi, the answer of the first question will not be 17 is to 8 because it is talking about boys is to girls, not girls is to boys. Right? So answer of this question is directly going to be 8 is to 17. It will be reversed, not 17 is to 8. So whenever we look at the question of a ratio, always look which is the first value. And unfortunately, whenever we have these kind of questions, so what happens? Both the options are always given, that A is to B and B is to A. Okay. Now, so that is going to be medical, not commerce, because in commerce there are 191 boys and in medical there are 144 girls. Okay, now let's look at this question. Question number 3. How many girls has opted for non-medical? So how many girls opted for non-medical? That is going to be 510. We have already calculated it. So basically, when you are solving this set, even if you are not solving other questions, this is a question that must be solved. Why it is so? Because it is a direct question that is given from the data itself. It's the question says 1700 girls and 30% girls opted for non-medical. So this one question must be done definitely. Now look at the next question. Which of the following courses have been opted by maximum number of boys? सबसे ज़्यादा लड़के कहाँ पे? So maximum number of boys, I can directly say it is going to be arts. That's going to be option B. And the next one, the girls have outnumbered boys in 5 fine arts. How many girls in fine arts more than the boys as a percentage of total number of boys? Okay, so how many girls are in fine arts are more than boys? So basically, my job is to calculate percentage change. So 340 girls and 230 boys. So I have 340 girls and 230 boys. So girls have outnumbered boys in fine arts. So what is the outnumber value? That is 110. How many girls in fine arts are more than the boys as a percentage of boys? So how I'm going to calculate percentage? That is this. That is 230 into 100. Right. Okay. Now can you tell me how I'm going to calculate this value? What is the answer? Should it be option A? Should it be option B? And how I'm going to calculate very quickly. Anurit, Tenma, Priyanshi. So look, you don't have to divide. You don't need to know the table. So first of all, what is this value? Look at this value. This value is close to 50%. Is it or is it not? Right. So basically, if what is 50% is that is 115. And what I'm looking at 110. So I can say 110 is 115 minus 5. Okay. So that is 50% minus something. So 50% minus something, it means answer can't be 51% or 50%. Right? Fair enough. No, I'm not taking that. Now, what is 1% of 230? That is 2.3. Right? So 5 is more than 2.3. It means this value is 50% minus more than 2%. So value should be 47 point something or not. So my answer of this question is going to be option B, not A. Got it? So whenever we have these kind of questions, always you can take this approach directly. You can get the answer. You can assume 230 as 250. You can also get the answer. But even if you consider that as 250, it's not very difficult to calculate the answer. Okay, Priyanshi, I'll explain the calculation again. So basically, I am writing 110 as 115 minus 5. Right? So 115 is 50%. Right? So 50% minus something. So 110 is less than 50%. So option C and option D are rejected. Right? Now 5 is what? 2 into 2.3 means more than 2% you are subtracting. So 50% means more than 2% means the value should be less than 48%. Right? So 49% point something also cannot be the answer. So answer of this question is definitely going to be option B. Understood? So with this, we are done. Anyone else wants to ask something? So with this, we will wind up the session. Take care. Bye bye. Bye.